Hi, I'm Serene. Today I'm going to be doing topic 1, paper 1 questions. Topic 1 is about stoichiometry, and I cannot provide the questions themselves due to copyright reasons. However, I put the codes and you can simply search them and find the question. Thank you. The first question is asking which statements about solutions are correct. A solute dissolves in a solvent to form a solution. A solution is a homogeneous mixture of two or more substances. Concentrations of solutions can be expressed in G per decimeter cubed, or in other words, cubic decimeter. So basically, a solvent is the substance in which a solute dissolves to produce a homogeneous mixture, and the solute is the substance that dissolves in a solvent to produce a homogeneous mixture or a solution, in other words. So salt, which is a solute, which is what is dissolving in the solvent, and in this case it's water, dissolve and they create salt solution. This means that statement 1 is correct. As I mentioned while explaining solvents and solutes, a solution is a type of homogeneous mixture, and it is made up of two or more substances. A homogeneous mixture is a type of mixture with a uniform composition. This means that the substances cannot easily be distinguished from one another. The two components are well mixed and they dissolve in many cases that we cannot see the individual components separating out. Another example would be water and sugar, which creates sugar solution. You can't really separate the sugar from the water easily, and you cannot see them. They're in a uniform composition. This means that statement 2 is also correct. Okay, concentration is the measure of the amount of solute that has been dissolved in a given amount of solvent or solution. Concentration is usually mass over volume or moles over volume. This time we're using mass. The unit for mass is grams. The unit for volume is cubic decimeter. It's the exact same as 1 liter, which is, putting it into context for you, we can derive the unit grams per cubic decimeter, and we can write it in IB notation in the way that is shown on the slides. This means that all three statements are correct and the answer is D. Okay, in this question, it's asking in which mixture is NaOH the limiting reagent. Just some background knowledge: to identify the limiting reagent, you divide the number of moles of each reactant by the substance's coefficient from the balanced equation, and the smallest ratio is the limiting reactant. In the balanced chemical equation for NaOH plus H2SO4, the ratio is 2 to 1, 2 NaOH and 1 H2SO4. So in option A, when I divide 0.2 by the coefficient of NaOH, which is 2, I am going to have 0.1. And when I divide H2SO4 by the coefficient, which is 1, I'm just going to have 0.1. Meaning that they're equivalent and there is no limiting reagent. In B, which is the correct answer, I'm going to divide 0.1 by the coefficient of NaOH, and I'm going to have 0.05, and then I'm going to divide 0.1 by the coefficient of H2SO4, which is 1, and I'm going to have 0.1, meaning that NaOH is a limiting reagent in this equation. Then in NaOH plus HNO3, the ratio is 1 to 1. So for 1 mole of HNO3, we need 1 mole of NaOH. 0.2 divided by 1, the coefficient of NaOH would give me 0.2. And then 0.1 divided by 1, the coefficient of HNO3 would give me 0.1, meaning that NaOH is in excess and is the opposite of a limiting reagent. In D, they're both going to be divided by 1 because both coefficients are 1, meaning that the ratio is equivalent and there is no limiting reagent. So the answer is B. Okay, so here for this question, it asks what is the molar mass in grams per mole of a substance if 0.3 mole of the substance has a mass of 18 grams. To find the molar mass, you divide the mass in grams by the number of moles. And here the mass is 18 and the number of moles is 0.3. Here are the options. A is 5.4, B is 6, C is 30, and D is 60. A is incorrect because if instead of dividing the mass and the number of moles, they multiplied it, and 18 times 0.3 would give you 5.4. B is incorrect because I think the person made a unit conversion or had some kind of confusion, and they divided 18 by 3 and not 0.3. And here the correct answer, which is 60, was divided by 2, and I'm not sure why this was confused, but that's what occurred. Finally, in D, the correct answer, when you divide 18 by 3, you're going to get 60, which is the molar mass, according to the formula. So once again, the answer is D, and the formula plugged in can be seen in the calculator. So finally, in the final question, it asks for which compounds is the empirical formula the same as the molecular formula. Number 1, methane, number 2, ethene, and number 3, ethanol, and it gives the options A, 1 and 2 only, B, 1 and 3 only, and C, 2 and 3 only, and D, 1 and 2 and 3. So an empirical formula represents the simplest whole number ratio of various atoms present in a compound, whereas the molecular formula shows the exact number of different types of atoms present in a molecule of a compound. So the empirical formula is the simplest ratio, and the molecular formula is the exact amount. Now, this question does not provide you with the formulas, but you just use your background knowledge and your basic knowledge of the compounds and you formulate them yourselves. So methane is CH4, ethene is C2H4, and ethanol is C2H5OH, and those are the molecular formulas. So the ratio between C and H in methane is just 1 to 4, which cannot be simplified necessarily. The molecular formula of ethene is C2H4, but the empirical is CH2. I wrote the 1 on my slides just to clarify that there is still a 1 there and that you're dividing each number by 2 to get the simplest ratio or the empirical formula. In ethanol, it's C2H5OH in the molecular formula, and there are no common factors for you to simplify this further and get an empirical formula. So the answers would be methane and ethanol have the same molecular formula and the same empirical formula, meaning that the answer is D, which was 1 and 3. Thank you so much. That's it for today. And you can find all the questions by searching the codes. And I hope this video was helpful.